Peace, family. Peace, peace, peace. Y'all come on up in here real quick, man. Y'all come on up in here real quick, man. Let's get some straightening going on. Let's get some straightening going on. Need y'all to come on up in here. I don't mind getting some straightening going on. I don't mind at all. I got time. I got time. I got time. I got time. Y'all come on up in here so we can get some of this straightening going on. I don't mind at all. I just so happen to have time. Okay? I just so happen to have time. Y'all give me a minute. I'm sharing this out with a few people. Y'all give me a couple of minutes here. And I will be getting started. But peace to the family. Come on up in this joint. Share this out with a couple of people, man. Share this out with a couple of people. Let them know that the God is live. And we're going to do a little bit of straightening. We're going to do a little bit of straightening. You know what I'm saying? Let me see. Share that right there. Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. I'm here and I don't mind. I don't mind at all. Y'all come on up in here. Peace. What's going on, family? Peace, peace, peace. What's going on? Is this the brother right here? Let me see if this is the brother right here. They say no streetwear. Okay, he's here. Let me get this brother on here. Y'all come on up in this joint, man. Peace, Dr. Ma'at. How you doing, beloved? How was your trip? How was your trip, Dr. Ma'at? Hold on one second, brother. Hold on one second. Peace to you. How was your trip, Dr. Ma'at, man? Got to check in with my sister before I get started right, with my brother right here on the live. I know you had a trip recent. Trip was fire? Okay. That's what's up. I know you got some good documentation for us. I know you brought back some knowledge and wisdom for all of us. Can't wait to hear all about it. And I'm gonna be watching the Maroon film tonight. I heard the Maroon film is available on the FBA stream. Oh, you listen to the album? Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. But I'm gonna be watching the Maroon film tonight. Tariq Nasheed's new film. I heard you were putting on a master class in that joint. And so I'm going to check it out tonight, man. I heard good things about the film and about you especially. So, yeah, I'm going to check that out tonight. But what's going on, brother? What's your name?
You call me Lee. Pardon the background. I'm at work. But I could talk.
Would you say call you Lee?
You call me Lee, yeah.
Lee, okay, Lee.
Yeah.
So, Lee, man, so, you sent me a video in my DM. First of all, it's about Tariq Nasheed. It's about another man. And so I just want to make it clear that I'm not here to defend Tariq Nasheed. If you have an issue with Tariq Nasheed, you should address Tariq Nasheed. Right? I'm me. I'm sincere love to God. Right? I rock with Tariq Nasheed. I definitely do. You know what I'm saying? I identify myself as a foundational Black American. I definitely do. But much of the things that you were saying to me in the DM that you're associating with FBA rhetoric were lies. You know what I'm saying? Those things are not true. Those are not things that I say. Those are not things that I've heard Tariq Nasheed say or other people who wave that flag either. These are lies that have been pushed by people that mainly a lot of the non-FBA tethers who don't like the fact that we are self-identifying our own lineage. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes it's just certain people who benefit from us not doing that, who seem to have an issue with us doing that. And so a lot of the things that you were saying just weren't true, brother.
Well, you said that's rhetoric, but you just said tether. And that's part of the rhetoric right there. Calling other Black people tethers.
What is a tether?
That's like calling another Black person a nigger.
What is a tether?
That's like calling another Black person a nigger.
When you
It's a
call,
disparaging
when
word.
you
It's not
call
a good.
another,
I let you talk, I ain't interrupt you. When you call another black person a tether brother, that's a disparaging word. It's not like calling another black man brother, my friend. It's not. That's not a good thing. It's not a good term.
it's a
It's a disparaging term.
it is.
So that rhetoric comes from him. And just on your another point you just made, I've heard. I used to follow Tariq when he was doing Hidden Colors, when he did 1804, went out to Houston Street, saw it in the movie. But as soon as he started with the FBA, that's when I cleared out, because I consider myself a Pan-African, and to me, that's just cooperation between black people, right? It doesn't mean that I have to drop my identity and take on another's identity. You can still be black American, you can still be whatever it is you are, and be Pan-African. You understand what I'm saying? So when he started with that, I had to disassociate myself with him. I've heard him say these things. And my last point real quick, the thing I sent you was actually a compilation of some of the things that he says out his own mouth. You can't get around that. The one thing about right now, we can archive everything on the internet. So we could go back and hear him saying filthy, nasty things about other black people out of his mouth. And things that are unintelligent, like people's hairlines and foolish things like that.
Okay. So again, I'm not here to defend Tariq Nasheed. He can do that on his own. But I will address the video and the comments, the so-called contradictions that are being pointed out in the video. So it does a compilation of him saying that his family is 100% foundational Black American on both sides, and then it shows him in another clip saying that he has Asian DNA, he has African DNA, European DNA. How is that a contradiction?
Because he said I'm 100% foundational Black American.
Okay.
In other words, he's saying he's 100% black people who are descendants of slaves.
Right.
Black people who are descendants of slaves are from Africa. There's no getting around that.
Black people who are descendants of slaves also have African DNA. They have European DNA. Some have Asian DNA.
And why is that?
It's because of the things that we went through during the Ma'afa. You know what I'm saying? So,
Facts.
right.
We agree on something.
So, a foundational Black American is one who is the descendant of slaves in America, and so having that DNA, that admixture of DNA, doesn't contradict that.
Okay, I'll concede that point.
It doesn't contradict that, and so
right.
that's part of who we are. What is a foundational Black American? Can you explain what that is?
From what I see,
right,
it's a cult, and Tariq is the Jim Jones of it, and unfortunately, y'all drinking that Kool-Aid.
What's
I'm
the
not trying to be funny.
What is the Kool-Aid? Describe the Kool-Aid. What's in the Kool-Aid?
The Kool-Aid, right? If you close your eyes and you hear some of the things, and we got to be truthful and not disingenuous. If you close your eyes and hear the rhetoric that FBA people say, you would think a white person is saying those things. You understand? The Kool-Aid is hate rhetoric for other black people who don't happen to be born or be from America. You understand?
So if I'm understanding you correctly, those of us who identify as foundational Black Americans, we hate people who are descend from other places. We hate Africans. We hate Caribbeans. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, the proof is in the talk. The proof is in the things that are being said, the hateful things that are said.
Okay.
Like I said, if you close your eyes, you would think a white person is saying those things.
All right, but listen, brother, I'm a foundational Black American. I have the flag behind me in the background, and so I would be one of these people that you're speaking about, right?
Mm-hmm. But which is confusing to me.
What if I told you that my wife was Jamaican, 100%?
Which is confusing to me. So I linked on to you through Urban X. They was promoting your album at the end of the podcast. Urban X, Black Dot. They promoted. So I said, yeah. So they promoted your album. So I went. I'm like, oh, this is fire. We're talking about the pandemic, and usually when people speak knowledge or whatever, it don't sound good. Like a lot of people, they don't have a way to speak knowledge, and the beat sound good, and the rhyme sound good, the delivery sound good. So I was like, oh, okay, this shit fire. I let my wife listen to it. Then I started going through your page, and I see the flag. I'm like, oh no. So like I say, from what I get from you, I'm confused. I'm like, how can an intelligent black man like this promote that foolishness?
All right.
So if you was to tell me your wife is Jamaican, I'll believe you, but I'm confused.
Yeah, my wife is Jamaican. Both of her parents are from Jamaica. She's my wife. We have a child together. Her son that she had before me is my son. We're a family, right? And so
y'all have a child together?
Yeah, we have a child together.
Is he FBA?
Absolutely, he's FBA.
Even though one of his parents is from the Caribbean?
Doesn't matter.
Oh, that's not what Tariq says, but I'll let you go ahead, brother.
That is what Tariq says. Look,
okay.
look. Tariq has a wife who's half white.
Absolutely.
Doesn't he say that his wife is FBA?
People make exception for who they want.
No, I'm just saying. Again, I'm not here to try to defend Tariq. But the key word that you're saying, brother, is that you are confused. I agree with that. You. Listen, right. I agree with that. You are confused.
You seem, I don't know you, but you seem like an intelligent man.
Right.
So, and that seems like and to me, that's a low IQ organization.
It's because you're confused, and it's okay to be confused. That don't make you less intelligent because you're confused. Mm-hmm. But in your confusion, you shouldn't be so quick to defend your position. When you're confused, you should probably fall back, open your mind, and really take in the information and listen. Because the things that you're saying that Tariq is saying or that FBA is supposed to represent, those things are not true. We don't hate on people simply because they're immigrants. We specifically talk about what we call the tether class. These are people who come from non-FBA backgrounds who align themselves with the oppressor class against us when they come over here. A tether is a specific thing. Everybody, my wife is not a tether. You know what I'm saying? Just because she's Jamaican, and I'm just using myself. I'm just using myself as an example. I'm just using myself as an example. I don't give her an exception just because she's my wife. You know what I'm saying? She may have tethers in her family.
Right. But wouldn't that just be a coon then? Why the specific word?
That's a good.
Wouldn't that just be a coon? Like to me, I'll say, okay, what you're saying to me, what you're saying to me is not the truth. You do have people that come from the Caribbean and Africa who are coons, and they align with white people for whatever reason. That's absolutely true. And you have black Americans like that. So again, wouldn't that just be a coon?
That's a good question. That's a fair question. And yeah, a tether is basically a coon who has a foreign background. That's the only distinction, right? It's a coon, but they just happen to have a foreign background. But the reason why we find it necessary to make these distinctions is because all of the negative stigma that's associated with black people in general gets dumped on foundational black Americans. It gets associated with us, whether we're talking about some of the crimes that take place, whether we're talking about some of the ratchetness and degenerate behavior that we see out here, whether we're talking about some of the coons. And so we don't want to bear everyone else's trash when they go out of their way to separate themselves from us whenever something good happens. You know what I'm saying? And so if I was in Nigeria, or if I was in any country in the Caribbean or any country on the African continent, and I was over there doing some type of crimes, raping women or doing some type of scams or selling drugs or whatever the case may be, and I get caught up in one of their countries doing that, you don't think that they're going to specify that I'm a black American, that I'm not one of them?
Of course they probably would.
Right.
Of course they probably would.
And so we do the same thing, because for the longest, we have never done that, and we have absorbed everybody else's trash. Everything that gets done with a person that has this shade, it falls on foundational black Americans. We bear the brunt of it. And so we started to understand that, look, we've been trying to get on code with the global black family for the longest. Foundational Black Americans specifically have been leading the charge for Pan-Africanism and for just global blackness in general, to try to get people across the globe on code for black empowerment. But what we have found is we have worn ourselves thin because too many of them don't think like us. They don't view the oppressor the way that we view the oppressor, and they are perfectly fine with things the way that they are. So we found it necessary to start making this distinction, to start saying, okay, we're going to start divvying up who's who and what's what, especially over here, because it's necessary for us to build our strength. You know what I'm saying? It's a cultural revolution, but also on the political side of things, a lot of times non-FBAs are used against us. They get put in certain political positions, and they have that tether mindset, and they go in there and they pretend like they're speaking for us. They look like us, so they say they're speaking for black people, but they're speaking from a tether mindset, and they're working to maintain a system of injustice, a system of white supremacy that works against us. We're saying these are the issues that we have, and these are the solutions that we want to see coming from the political structure. And they're in position working against us, whether you want to talk about Barack Obama or any one of them. You know what I'm saying? Kamala Harris, you know, Colin Powell, whoever you want to name, all of these people that get put in these positions that come from foreign backgrounds that work specifically to undermine us and uplift all these other groups of people. So we said we have to start delineating. We have to start pointing out who is who, not because we hate immigrants or because we hate foreigners, but because we can't allow anyone that looks like us to speak for us. Does that make sense?
Is Condoleezza Rice an immigrant?
No, Condoleezza Rice, I believe she's FBA on both sides.
So I can name just as many people in government that's working against you that's Black American. So that's one thing. So I want to give a little pushback. FBA, from my understanding, started like 2015, 2016. I don't know your age, but you look older than that. You look like my age. I'm 44, so you look like my age. I don't remember FBA in the 90s, right? You said that this never used to happen. That's not true. I'm gonna tell you why. You said that what you're doing now, as far as the pushback with dividing between, right? And I'm gonna tell you that's not true. I'm gonna tell you why. You asked me in the DM what's my background, and the reason why I didn't answer is because I heard that line of questioning before from other people who claim FBA. That's why I didn't answer. But I'll answer now. My mother is from the Virgin Islands, St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands. My father's from Harlem. His mother is from Harlem. So I guess you would say my father's side is Black American and my mother's side is Caribbean, even though the Virgin Islands, they consider them U.S. citizens. But that's here no there. I remember static from both sides. I remember going, when my mother would send me down there for the summertime and I would come back with an accent, Black Americans calling me coconut. And I also remember going down there and the West Indians down there calling me names, Yankee boy, this, that. So I got it on both sides. Guess what? I never threw hate on both sides. I just know there's fools and simple-minded, ignorant people on both sides. And there's righteous people and people that's for the cause on both sides. Garvey was from Jamaica, but he came and he promoted unity amongst us all. You understand what I'm saying? So the other thing, like I said, going back, Black American culture didn't start with Tariq Nasheed naming FBA.
No.
FBA, let me make this last point. FBA came because Tariq Nasheed tried to co-opt Yvette Carnell's ADOS. And Yvette Carnell and Tone Talks, they wasn't having it. So he remixed it and started his own thing. This is what he does. He co-opts people's stuff. He tried to do it with Dan Calloway with the Native American madness. So he co-opts. So that's how, if we're being honest, that's how FBA started, being co-opted from ADOS. And remember, ADOS started as a descendants of American descendants of slaves. That started as a so-called reparations movement. So this is how ADOS and FBA started. It didn't start as saying, okay, how you're saying as far as like we got to separate ourselves from these tethers, you know, because like I said, you're gonna find Black Americans who will get what's this dude, the ambulance chaser? He's supposed to be representing Malcolm's family now.
Yeah.
Ben Clump,
Benjamin
he
Crump.
Black American, he's sus. What you like? We go as many people you say like you talk Colin Powell, you right? Obama, you right? Or whoever. I can name Black American people who are doing the same thing.
Right.
The same thing. They're undermining the overall majority of Black people, right? The masses of Black people. But my point is this, my brother. This movement, and I know you disagree with me, is regressive. It's not progressive. Because when I look back at all the greats, whether they were Black American or whether they had Caribbean or African background, all the greats, they never was divisive like this. They never was like this. They promoted unity and cooperation. Remember, these people are already globalists. These pilgrims, when they came over here globalists. That's how they went in Australia, New Zealand, they went all over, and this is how they control. So now we want to separate ourselves and isolate ourselves because a couple of people are coons in Africa or Caribbean, when the overwhelming majority, if you go over there, they're going to show you love. You go to the Caribbean, they're going to show you love. Because I know you come off to me as an intelligent man, as a scholar. They're going to show you love. You go to Africa, they showed Tariq love in Africa. He'd been to Africa before. When he went out there for his speakings, before he was an FBA, before he started FBA, Africans came out, sign my book, sign my DVD, do this. So it's like, again, brother, like, I understand what you're saying, but I just disagree because it seems like, from what I see, it's doing more damage than good. Overall, it's doing more damage than good. You know, Malcolm, Garvey, Dr. Ben, Khalid Muhammad, all the greats, Steve Copley, whoever you can name, and I'm leaving out a lot. They always about bringing us. Amos Wilson, Amos Wilson ain't Caribbean, he ain't African. Amos Wilson is you consider him FBA. He was about bringing us together, right? So I think there's a misunderstanding with Pan-Africanism, like you gotta drop your culture and no, Pan-African is cooperation. Like for example, in business, we already have the network laid out. You in America, let's say you want to go into commerce. Instead of doing business with Europeans or Asians or whatever, do business with your fellow Black man in Africa, in Brazil, in the Caribbean, in England. We already all over the globe. So we already got we can have a mutual agreement. This is how they control the world, through Pan-Europeanism. So why would we, close ourselves off from that energy? And, I just don't understand. Like, for me, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to you. And I'm not going to remember everything I wanted to touch on that you just spoke on.
I mean to be long-winded, my bad.
Nah, you good. I ain't want to cut you off. I want to allow you to express yourself. But the bottom line is, a lot of the belief that you're holding about foundational Black Americans just simply isn't true. What you're saying about Pan-Africanism, look, there's nothing wrong with Pan-Africanism. People want to practice Pan-Africanism and be a part of organizations that promote Pan-Africanism. That's perfectly fine. You know what I'm saying? When you talk about collective cooperation around the globe and all of that, that is ideal. Foundational Black Americans, we would love to see that. But the reality is, right now, we're not getting that. The energy is not being reciprocated towards us. None of these nations, you talk about these other nations, these nations are damn near 100% Black. So if there was so many people over there that's on code with us, then we would have some reciprocal energy. We would be making some moves globally if they was really rocking with us like that. You got a country with hundreds of thousands, millions of Black people, and the majority of them was rocking with us, then we would have some type of dual citizenship popping. We would have some type of, trades going on, some type of alliance, some type of people coming over here backing us up. You know what I'm saying? We would see more of that. And so, yeah, you got cool people all over the globe, and we fuck with them. See, you already got it in your mind that foundational Black Americans, we just ain't fucking with no immigrants. We ain't fucking with no non-FBAs. That's just not the case. Even Tariq Nasheed's right-hand man is Nigerian, who helps him put together all of his events and his movies and stuff. He rocks with a dude named Ola, who was straight up and down Nigerian. That's his man.
I know that. I used to follow Tariq, so I know. Yeah.
That's his man. So it's not like we just over here hating on immigrants. And another thing that you said to me in the DM was that we only got the smoke for Black immigrants. But that's not true either, because we call out our domestic coons. We just make a distinction between the coons and the tethers, but we call out other Black domestic coons who are foundational Black Americans. We definitely call out the anti-Blackness that comes from the Latino sector, that comes from the Asian sector. We call all of that out. We got a problem with all anti-Blackness, no matter what the people look like, even if they look just like us. It doesn't matter where it comes from. If you anti-Black, we calling that out. We got a problem with that as foundational Black Americans. That's the get down. It's not about being anti anything. The only thing we are anti is we are anti coon. We are anti-coon and anti-FBA hate. And we get it from all angles. That's the reason why we find it really necessary to circle our wagons around our culture, because we're the only group of people that get it from all angles. Everybody experiences hate from some group or another. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to foundational Black Americans, we get it from the white supremacists, we get it from the Asians, we get it from the Latinos, we get it from all of the Europeans, and we get it from people who look just like us that come from foreign backgrounds. So you know what I'm saying? We don't have no choice but to circle our wagons and stand our ground on our culture and on our lineage, because honestly, that's what I wanted to touch on that you said earlier. But honestly, what I was going to say is this is something that we have never done before. And when you talked about, you know, when you was in New York and people will call you coconuts or whatever the case may be, right? First of all, you're talking about children. That's some shit that kids do. Foundational Black American children, yeah. When y'all came over here,
talk like that. Some adults talk like that. Where the kids get it from?
Talk shit. But
where the kids get it from? If we're being honest, like, let's be honest. Where the kids get it from?
I'll give you that. Right. I'll give you that. But as far as it goes, it's us talking shit. Sometimes niggas come over from the Caribbean, they look funny, they dress funny, we crack jokes on them. Niggas come over from Africa with the high waters and the sandals and shit, we crack jokes on them, right? But that's not equivalent to those people coming over here, like the Attorney General down in Virginia right now, talking about we need to get over slavery and they don't owe us reparations and all of this shit.
That's disrespectful.
You can't find that the other way around. Foundational Black Americans going to these people's countries, getting into their political mix and working against them, telling them about what they don't need. You know what I'm saying? Foundational Black Americans, we don't do that. When we go to these people's countries, we show love, we show honor, we show respect, we try to make connections. We don't go to these people's country trying to undermine them. We don't do that. That's a one-sided thing. It don't go both ways. The most thing that you can say about FBAs is we talk shit. That's about it.
I never heard that, but whoever said that in Virginia, they need to be called out on that, because that's disrespectful, right? And they need to be, things like that need to be called out. And we need to put a spotlight on that. That's number one. But this is where we digress from we part ways. This country ain't your country. This country belongs to the people who shed blood for it and spilled blood. Yeah, we might have fought in wars. Listen, follow me. Follow me.
Listening.
This country belongs to the people who shed blood and spilled blood. And I'm not talking about the slaves, and I'm not talking about the few black people that went and fought in the wars. No, I'm talking about the people who they were in their army. Yeah, you had the 54th Regiment during the Civil War, and you had other black contingents in World War I and World War II who were in segregated units, by the way, in the white man's army. That's why Muhammad Ali said, I ain't going over there. You understand? So when I say shed blood, I ain't talking about them, because they was in their army. Side note, many nations have other races in their army. Hitler had black people in his army. He had Arabs in his army, and he also had Jews working for him. So many different different people will have different mercenaries or different races in their army. These people, I'm talking about the white people came, conquered this land with force and bloodshed. That's the blood I'm talking. They split our blood, Native Americans' blood, and they spilled their own blood to get the gains. So this is not our country. This is not our country. Yeah, you live here. You could say some sense of pride, but this ain't yours. 1776 is when they put the name on it. This is America now. Then they push Manifest Destiny, push west, conquering all the other Indian tribes. You understand? So they pick and choose who comes in this country. They pick and choose the laws. They, from top down. If we are being honest, we know that. We know there's only one party. We know there's, but when you go behind the veil, there's no Republican and Democrat. There's one party. It's no coincidence that all the presidents share the same bloodline. So we got to get that out of our mind. This ain't our country. This ain't our country. That's a fact. This ain't our country.
Let me respond before you go too far.
Go ahead.
Let me respond before you go too far. So before I expound, I want you to answer this question.
Sure.
If this is not our country, where's our country?
Brother, when you speak about Black Americans,
yeah, where's our country?
Black Americans are disintegrated people. All right, we don't have listen to what I'm saying. You asked me a question. I'm gonna answer you. Black Americans don't have a country. You understand? In the literal sense, we don't have a country. Did we have a choice in naming this country, or the name was given, or when they created this country was we? You understand? When we when they have a holiday.
So you answered my question. You answered my question.
Okay.
You answered the question. You said we don't have a country.
So the answer, let me be short and sweet. We Black Americans, we don't have a country. We don't have a country.
You said we don't have a country. I emphatically disagree with that.
Okay,
regardless to the circumstance, regardless to the circumstances upon which we did it, the fact is we built this country. The fact is there is no United States of America without my ancestors. The fact is our bloodshed did go into this soil. Our brilliant minds, our architects, and all of that built up this country for what it is. Not only that, even when you look at where this country is at today, as far as politics and all of that, if it were left solely up to the white supremacists, none of these immigrants that we're talking about, Black immigrants that we're talking about, would be here. The only reason why they're here is because foundational Black Americans fought for them to have the right to do so, right? The only reason why this country exists is because we built it. Furthermore, Black people were already here before the white supremacists showed up. We all didn't come here on slave ships. Some of us did, very little of us did when you're talking about the United States of America. Very little of our population came off of a slave ship. My brother froze up, but y'all hear what I'm saying. Many of us were already here. Many of us are already native to this land before there was a United States of America. Some of these native people that you're giving credit to and all of that, those are my ancestors, many of them. Many of them look just like me. They just got reclassified later on. So you giving away this country to the white supremacists because you say they came over here and fought and shed blood for it. No, the blood that they shed was ours. You know what I'm saying? The people that they slaughtered was our people that were already here on this land. And then they brought some more over on the slave ships from Africa and all of that too. They did. That's part of our history too. We are an amalgamation of the natives who were here. Some of the people who were brought here during the transatlantic slave trade. Some of the explorers from Africa who came here before that. We are an amalgamation of those things. And the fact of the matter remains that you will not have a country called the United States of America if it was not for us. And so it does matter that we fought in every single war that this country had. You know what I'm saying? It does matter that we fought to knock down all of these Jim Crow laws, et cetera, et cetera. The country would still be in slavery right now if it wasn't for foundational Black Americans resisting and doing what we did. The country would still be in Jim Crow if we didn't continue to fight and resist and hold this country accountable for justice. this country wouldn't be here. This wouldn't be the opportunity that a lot of your immigrant family had the opportunity to migrate to. That wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for my people. You know what I'm saying? My wife's family wouldn't have had the opportunity to come over here and benefit from those opportunities if my people didn't fight for that. So this is absolutely 100% our country. We built it from scratch.
It's your country because white people decided that it would be more beneficial. Well, a group of white people decided it would be more beneficial to let slaves go at this current stage.
True. That's not true.
I didn't interrupt you, my brother. I didn't interrupt you.
That's not true. We fought to free ourselves.
I didn't interrupt you.
Go ahead, carry on.
So a group of white people decided that it would be more beneficial to free slaves. That's what Abraham Lincoln said. Abraham Lincoln said, he said that I don't want to misquote, I'm gonna paraphrase. He said that in order for me to, he said I wouldn't free the slaves if it was not to save the Union. Well, I'm probably paraphrasing. I'm sure you heard that before because a lot of black Americans like to champion Abraham Lincoln, but Abraham Lincoln wasn't no friend of black people. He said, I want to free the slave. So these two group of people, one wanted to keep slaves, one didn't. They had a civil war against themselves. And that's how, they allowed black people to join in, and they also allowed a bunch of immigrant white people to join in. And they said, look, we'll make you American citizens if you come join. That's how black people got free in this country. Now, this is what I'm going to say. If you're a slave, because you're saying we did this, we did that. My question to you, my brother, and I want you to answer me this honest question. Back in those days when our people were building up this country, you think they were proud of what they were doing, building this country?
That's neither here nor there.
See, so you're being disingenuous, my brother. The answer, I'm gonna tell you the answer. I'm gonna tell you the answer. The answer is no. They didn't build it. They were trying to get free. They were running to Canada, running to Florida, because Florida wasn't a part of the 13 colonies at that time. You know, you had Martin Delany and them that was trying to go back to Africa and all that. You understand? So they wasn't happy to build this country. They wasn't happy. No. As you said, yeah, they fought. We had slave revolts and a bunch of different, you had the Seminole Wars in Florida and different slave revolts because they was not happy being here. You know,
you
had slaves.
Being slaves.
Exactly. They was not happy being here under the people here that rule that rule to this day.
We're still not
understand? So
happy.
Exactly. So, you know, to say that, oh, this pride of, oh, we built this country, it's backwards to me. There's no pride in building things that our people died to not do, that they died, you know, that was done on them by rape and by force. You know, so when you say, okay, for example, and I think they took the statue down, but in Central Park, there's a statue of a guy that had slaves. He was a doctor, and he would operate on female slaves without anesthesia. And now the medical community praised him so much that they put a statue. Oh, he's the darling of gynecology. Is that something to be proud of? That's nothing to be proud of.
No.
How are we thinking about these things, my brother? How are we proud of that? That's a shameful history.
Let me respond. It's not a shameful history. And what we're proud of is the fact that we survived it. We're still here. We still here. We're still thriving.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was on the phone. That's why. My bad. I'm sorry, brother. Go ahead. I'm at work. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I apologize. Repeat what you said. I'm sorry. Repeat what you said.
I'm saying the source of pride comes from the fact that we survived all of that, and we're still thriving. Even though we've been through all of that, what you just described, and still continue to go through the things that you subscribe, we are still the most influential. We are still the most influential ethnic group on the planet, even though we went through all of that. That's where the pride comes from. A lot of people went through different things throughout their history. You know what I'm saying? The entire globe is dominated by white supremacy. Let's be clear. It's not just the United States of America. We're talking about this is not our country and going back to Africa and all of this stuff. The entire globe is dominated by white supremacy, and people have suffered oppression and domination by these evil bastards all over the planet. But
We agree
for some
100%.
reason, for some reason though, foundational Black Americans are the only ones who have come out of this shit damn near squeaky clean. We are still the most influential culture on the planet. Everybody admires us. Everybody follows what we do. We set the trends all over the globe. Everybody mimics the way that we talk, the way that we dress, our music, everything that we do, whether it's progressive or degenerate. For some reason, it resonates all over the planet and people admire it. You know why? Because all of the things that you just described that we went through, they know that we wasn't supposed to survive that shit. So that's the reason why people marvel at us and say, damn, how these people still got so much swag and so much pride and energy in themselves after all of the shit that was done to them. That's amazing. Yeah, we proud of that. Hell yeah, we proud of that shit.
But that's not what you said. You didn't say you was proud of that. You said you was proud of building up. You said you was proud of building up America for white people. You didn't say.
No. No, I didn't proud of building up America for white people. I never said that, brother. I never said that.
You said it in so many words, but what you're saying right now is not what you said before. You're saying, because what you're saying right now, then I would agree with you. I would be being
I'm very consistent with what I'm saying. I'm very consistent. I have plenty of your phone is breaking up. Your phone is breaking up. Your phone is breaking up. You're going in and out. But I have plenty of content on my Instagram page and on my YouTube channel saying the same thing that I'm saying now. Yeah. I'm very consistent with the things that I'm saying.
Yeah.
You all right? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're breaking up now. You're moving around and your service is janky.
Yeah, I'm in a bad place right now, man. But how is it right now?
Right now, you're good.
Okay, let me stand in this spot. So, when the pride that you said before was in basically everything that white people established, fighting in their army for their wars, their fascist wars, their white supremacist wars. That's nothing to be proud of. I don't care. That's nothing to be that's nothing to be proud of. Fighting in the Gulf War, the recent wars, whatever wars, even if you have black people right now that's in Syria or whatever, that's nothing to be proud of. Because all you doing is you're a soldier in their army fighting imperialism. That never stopped.
But listen, I never said that. I never said that. So let's
double talking now, my brother.
Keep the conversation.
Okay.
I'm not. This is
okay. All right. I'm gonna leave that alone. Okay.
This is recorded.
Absolutely.
I never said that. But I was responding to you saying that we're not Americans, and I mentioned that our people did fight in every war and all of this stuff, and that the country wouldn't exist without us. Even when you talked about the Civil War, you know what I'm saying? A lot of the angle that you came at that with was false also, because if it wasn't for black people, the Confederates would have won that war. The only reason.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the only reason why the Union was able to win that war and the South didn't end up seceding is because foundational black Americans were allowed to take up arms and fight for themselves. We freed ourselves. Nobody freed us.
Okay, so on that, all right, I'm not going to say nothing on that, but I will say that you had black people fighting on the Confederate side too. Are you aware of that history?
Yeah.
Okay, so now that brings me to the Revolutionary War. You had black people that fought on both sides of the Revolutionary War. You had black people, right, that fought with the British against the colonials. The British promised them freedom, and they promised them land in Africa. So my question to you, were those people considered foundational black Americans? The black people in America during the American Revolution that fought on the side of the British, are they foundational black Americans?
Black people that fought on the side of the British during the Revolutionary War. It depends on what happened to them, what happened to them, when that war was ended. Did they go to Britain? You know what I'm saying? Did they go to Britain and get their so-called freedom with the British? If they did, then that means they've been in Britain for the last 300-400 years So those are British blacks.
So
They're not
so
foundational Black Americans. See, look, let me define.
So
for
do
you.
they have?
Let me
Okay,
hold
okay,
on.
okay,
Let me
okay.
define for you, because
Okay.
this because I don't know exactly how to answer that question, because some of them still remained in this land and they would be foundational Black Americans, because the term foundational Black Americans, it covers the past and it also covers the present. So when you talk about foundational, that means we're the foundation of this clan of this land. We're one of the foundational populations who built up the United States of America. But also Black, meaning now we still identify today as Black people in America. You know what I'm saying? So that covers then and now. So if somebody fought on the side of the British in the Revolutionary War, and then after the war was over, they went back to Britain, and then they married and had children and all that stuff over there, and generation after generation, their descendants now, those are not foundational Black Americans.
So that means foundational Black American is not based on lineage, then, is what you're telling me, because, right?
Yeah,
Because,
it is.
hey Winston, how you doing?
Because
brother?
look, you have some. Because look, you have some people who were enslaved here in America in the 1700s, 1800s, 1600s, who were traded to plantations in the Caribbean.
Facts. Facts.
Right?
Absolutely.
So,
right.
Right. So those people today wouldn't be foundational Black Americans. They're going to be
interesting.
Jamaicans or
That's
Haitian or whatever the case may be. Vice versa. Vice versa. There were people. Hold on. There were people from Haiti. There were people from Haiti who were sold to American slave plantations. People from Jamaica. People from Barbados who were traded to American slave plantations. Their descendants today are foundational Black Americans.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting.
They've been here. They've been here all this time. They went through what we went through. They built this country, and they have a different culture. When you go to a new landmass, no matter what it is, no matter what the circumstances may be, when a group of people go to a new landmass, they develop a new culture. They become a new ethnic group based on their geographical location, based on the ecology in that location, whether it's the plants, the animals, whatever the circumstances are, it's going to bring about a new culture that they have to respond to the situation that they find themselves in. That's how tribes come about. That's how ethnic groups come about. It's not just strictly a blood thing. You know what I'm saying? Culture is based on your circumstances, and you and a group of people have a shared set of historical circumstances, and y'all become an ethnic group or a tribe based on that set of historical circumstances. So anybody who was traded over here from the Caribbean or anywhere else back then, their descendants that are alive today, those are foundational Black Americans.
So it's not according to lineage, it's according to culture then. Because if it's according to lineage, lineage don't break. Because it's lineage is about the blood. You understand? So for example, now I don't disagree. Let me go back for a second. I don't disagree that Black people were in the continent of America before Caucasians came here. I don't disagree with that, because you had a brother. He has a book called "They Came Before Columbus," right?
Right.
Where he talks Van Sertima, which people unfortunately, when they reference that book, they forget the whole title. It's "They Came Before Columbus: The Presence of Africans in the Americas." That's the whole title of the book. Right. And he talks about the Olmecs, right? Okay. So I don't disagree with you there. You had some of those people who would be considered Native Americans who were taken from America and went to slavery in the Caribbean. The blood is still there. So according to you, what you're saying to me now, the people that came over here and the people that went, they're no longer, but the people that came over, they are. So that means it's according to culture, right? It's according to culture. Am I right? It has to be one or the other. Is it culture or is it lineage?
I understand what you're saying. It's culture and ethnicity. The lineage thing, I understand what you're saying, because a lineage, by definition, by technical definition, you're just tracing whether it's patrilineal or matrilineal. You know, my mother to my mother to her mother and her father. You know what I'm saying? You're tracing it back that way through the blood. But listen.
Let me ask you this one question. Because I want this. Let me ask you one more question on top of that. So the next question will be.
Let me finish answering that though.
Okay, go ahead.
Answering that though.
Go ahead.
Because when it comes to that, when you talk about that bloodline, where you going to stop at? Because no matter what, if you keep on going, it's going to go back to Africa. No matter what. And that's
absolutely.
and that's true, but that's not just true
Absolutely.
for black people though. That's not just true for black people though.
Absolutely.
That's true for everybody on the planet.
Not everybody. Well, that's why I disagree. I disagree with that. Well, that's a whole nother conversation. I don't believe in the outer Africa. No, I don't believe in that. Europeans come from the Caucasus Mountains. Asians come from Asia.
Okay.
So but I'm not going to go down that road.
Conversation.
Right.
Let's not go there.
But this is the
question. Let's not go there.
But this is the question I have. Right. The question now is, when is the conversion? Because you said, okay, they come over here, they're part of FBA. So my question to you is, when is the conversion? I'll give you an example. You have Caribbean people that have come over here, their grandfather, their grandmother, they came over here like 1920, and they've been living here ever since. And they talk like you and me. I'm from New York. I met Korean people. Oh, where you from? Oh, Shea Croix. Oh, my family, they from. Well, I never been there though. And they don't know the culture. They don't know nothing. They've just been raised in New York. That's it. So my question to you is, when is the FBA conversion? How many centuries or how many decades? You understand? Like, when is the conversion? Are those people FBA?
I understand that question.
Right.
I understand that question. No, those people would not be FBA. Those people came to a country that was already built. They didn't build it. So they're not foundational. You understand?
So they have to come
foundational. In order to be foundational, we have to go back to slavery. You have to be able to trace back to slavery in America. That's foundational.
Okay, so even though, because the reason why this question came up, because remember, a part of FBA is a part of also the reparations movement. So my thing is, if you have people, right, that were traded off in the 1800s, because, you know, once the 1800s started coming, that's when slavery so-called died down and everything like that, right? If you have people that's, let's say, in Antigua, that can trace back a relative that was in slavery during slavery time that was sold over, are they entitled to reparations?
So, yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like, you have people in Liberia who have ancestors who were slaves in America. Right? You have people in different parts of the world who could trace their lineage back to slavery in America. So that's a fair question. And I'm not a reparations expert, but from what I've heard people say who are reparations expert is those would be special cases. They may very well qualify, you know what I'm saying? But those would be special cases. But first we got to deal with the people who are here presently, who are classified as black, who can trace their lineage back to the killing fields of American slavery. Those are the people who have to get compensated first. Those other cases that you're describing, those would be a special set of circumstances that would have to get put aside until we could sort those things out. You know what I'm saying?
So the reason why
that's a fair question.
Yeah, the reason why I bring up all this stuff is because the whole FBA thing, and to me, is just based on confusion, right? It's just based on confusion because
no, it's very clear. I didn't make it clear to you just now.
No.
I've answered your questions. I've answered your questions, and you've been satisfied with the answers.
Okay, so let me rephrase my words. It's not confusion. I understand, but I disagree. Let me say that.
Hold on, you're breaking up. You're breaking up. Let's get back clear.
How's it now?
All right, go ahead.
You're good now? I said, let me rephrase my words. I'm not confused. I understand you, but I disagree. So let me say that. Let me choose my words right. I understand what you're saying, but I disagree. You understand? Black Americans, I don't use the term FBA. Black Americans had culture.
Damn, brother. I want to hear you. I want to hear you, but your service is bad. Your service is bad.
Are you familiar with New York?
Can you tell me this? I'm from New York. Can you tell me the specific things that you disagree with, though?
You from New York?
Yeah, I'm
on Ward's Island, so the signal over here is real bad right now. But how's it coming right now?
I got you. Right
okay, so
now you sound good.
Okay, so let me stand right here. We Black Americans had culture, right, before the term FBA was coined, right? Black
Right.
Americans didn't just, we've been had culture. We had a conversation on IG and the DM. You talked about, you know, the uniqueness. Black Americans been had a uniqueness. Even in America, Black American culture is regional, right? When you go to DC, they do go-go music. We don't do go-go music in New York. When you go to Chicago, they step. We don't step in New York, but it's all Black American culture. So Black American culture is from region to region. It's not one culture, right? You have also the Gullah Geechee from the Carolinas. Are they FBA? Because you talk to them and you see them, they're telling you they're retaining their African culture, right? We know the history of the Gullah Geechees. They landed there, they stayed there, and they retained a lot of their African culture. So are they FBA?
They still FBA, yeah.
They're FBA? You know, so I don't know. I understand.
Foundational Black Americans, yeah, we are unique, but we're an amalgamation of things. So we do have African culture, we do have parts of but Africa is a vast thing itself. It's a continent. All of Africa don't have the same culture, right?
Absolutely, very diverse.
So there are some
different languages, everything.
There are certain things that were retained, whether we're aware of it or not. There are certain things that were retained in our culture that came from Africa, right? But we still created a new culture here, though, even though we may still have retained some aspects of our Africanness.
Unfortunately, I've never spoken to an FBA that has articulated themselves the way you have. You know what I mean? And that's unfortunate because it seems as if there's too many people who consider themselves FBA. All right, go ahead.
Let me say this. There are a lot of people who identify as FBA again. And one thing that you said in the DM too, you called it an organization. I'm not a part of any organization. It's not an organization. And that's the reason why you might talk to another person who's an FBA and they ain't saying none of this shit I'm saying. And me and that person may not disagree on a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? But they're still foundational Black Americans. Foundational Black American is not something you can join. You were either born a foundational Black American or you weren't. It's just like being a Jamaican or being a Haitian or being anything else. Either you were born that or you're not. It's not something that you can join. It's not something that you can leave from. You know what I'm saying? Either you're FBA or you're not. It's a term that refers to an ethnic culture group. It's just a term that refers to our ethnicity and our culture. That's all it is. It's not an organization.
So what was you in 95?
I was still foundational Black American from the day I was born. We just didn't have the term. The term is new. The culture is not new. The term is new. That's all it is. And that goes with something that you said earlier when you said we've always had our own unique culture before Tariq Nasheed came up with FBA. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Absolutely.
But we've never had a term that distinguished us and specified us from other people. That distinguished us
Black American
from other people.
Black American don't distinguish you?
I got two things to say about that. First of all, the answer is no. Second of all, it's puzzling to me that you're okay with the term Black American, but when you put foundational in front of it, it becomes a problem. But it's still American, and you're saying this ain't our country and all of that. So that confuses me. But the thing about Black American is, let me give you an example. Perfect example. My wife is a Black American. She's Black. She's an American citizen. But what's the difference between me and her? Her family comes from Jamaica. Her family comes from Jamaica. My family is foundational to America. She is a Black American.
No, she's Jamaican.
Isn't Barack Obama a Black American?
He's an American citizen. He's
Black
biracial.
American.
He's biracial American. Biracial.
Right, but biracial is not on the census though. There's no such thing as biracial in the system of white supremacy. There's no such thing as biracial in the system of white supremacy. Barack Obama can rightfully and legally check the box that says Black American.
Okay,
He
that's
can
the issue.
legally and rightfully check the box, and he's correct,
Yeah.
right? Who else?
So that's an issue
Kareem
with them.
Huh?
That's an issue with them not. That's an issue with them not classifying different black people, right? They're limiting.
That's my point. That's my point.
Yeah.
That's my point. We've
that
never
has nothing to do
been
with
classified. We've never been classified specifically for our own heritage. We've always been lumped up in with just anybody who's black. But other people do have delineation terms. They get to wave their Jamaican flags and they Trinidadian flags whenever it's convenient for them, and that distinguishes them from us. But we've never had a term or a flag or anything like that that distinguishes us from other black people around the world. So that's the only reason why we embrace the term foundational Black American, because that's something that we never had before.
All right, so I'm not mad at none of that. I'm not mad at distinguishing yourself. I'm not mad at any of that. I'm not mad at the term per se, foundational Black American. The reason why I want to call myself that is because I don't like the rhetoric that comes from people, excluding you, that push FBA. And if we're being honest, you go to Twitter, Tariq Nasheed himself, who's the one that coined the term, so he's the front man, he's the spokesman, he coined the term, right? The rhetoric that they push under the moniker of FBA is what I have a problem with. It's divisive. I don't have a problem with Black Americans specifically, not anyone else that comes here who is considered Black American by the dominant society. Specifically Black Americans or FBA, distinguishing yourself or having a separate culture. I don't think no one is against that. What we are against is the divisive, and that's not the exceptions are never the rule. We can't paint a wide brush for ignorant people, my brother, because that's the same thing white people do for black people in general. So we can't. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, you know, a lot of the rhetoric, if you close your eyes, it sounds like it's coming from a racist white man. You understand?
Well,
we can't paint all Africans. You don't sound like that. But certain little things you say, like what you just said, you're saying like, oh, but they don't, like you, it's like, okay, if you get into an interaction, right, a bad interaction with let's say you get into a bad interaction with an African and they call you a Kata or some dumb shit, you gonna say all Africans like that, my brother? You get into a bad interaction with a Caribbean or a Jamaican. Listen, let's keep it 100. We from New York. I live in the Bronx. Sometimes I go on White Plains Road. As a matter of fact, I live on 241st. Sometimes I go on White Plains Road, and before I get in there to order some food, there's enough attitude already. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not gonna say all Jamaicans are like that. Even your wife, if she's honest, she'll be saying, yeah, we be like that. You know what I mean? But that's not all Jamaicans. So I'm not gonna paint if I have a bad interaction with a black person of another culture, I'm not gonna paint all of them. That's unintelligent to me. That doesn't make no sense. FBA and FBA and you just alluded to it yourself just now. You just alluded to it yourself.
I never said all Jamaicans or Africans anything.
Listen, my brother, you didn't say the words. You didn't say the words, but you alluded to it.
I would never allude to that, and I would never say that because I don't think that. I know better.
As you say, we got this on tape, so we could go back and we could, you know what I mean? Timestamp.
This is all recorded. This is all recorded, and not only is this recorded, but a lot of my life is documented, and so I have plenty of non-FBAs that I fuck with hard body. You know what I'm saying? So I never said those things that you're saying. I never said those things that you're saying. You said you checked out the new album on the Master Table album. I got a song called Revenge of the Akata, right? If you listen to the song, the first line on the song I said was, this for the tether class, not for the riders in the diaspora. So I've always made a distinction between the tethers and the riders. I've never said all foreign blacks are tethers. Nobody's ever said that.
You never said that.
Let me not say nobody. Let me not say nobody, because there are FBAs that say fuck shit that I don't rock with. You got people who are
Absolutely.
FBA who say, we not African. We ain't got nothing to do with Africa. We ain't never been in Africa. I don't agree with none of that, right? But
Okay.
the people that I co-sign, the people that I fuck with, and Tariq Nasheed, who you keep trying to say, he doesn't say those things. He never said
That's not true, my brother.
nothing like that.
That's absolutely
He
not
always
true.
makes a distinction. Look, I'll do this right
He,
now while we on the live
you,
because
you,
this will be easy to find.
you see, the black cops that just they killed the brother in the over there. They just been
In Memphis.
charged with murder. Tariq Nasheed said they giving me non-FBA vibes just by
So that
looking at
doesn't
them.
mean that doesn't mean all non-FBAs. That doesn't mean all non-FBAs are on some fuck shit. That doesn't mean that.
But my brother,
That means
that
these niggas
statement
right
is
here. He's
off.
talking about those niggas specifically.
That statement is off. And to say, oh, look
Look,
at your
but listen, let
hairline, you're
me ask you a
non-FBA
question.
because of your hairline. You can't dub
Listen,
over that, my brother.
those
That shit
are
that shit ain't.
those are
Say that
jokes.
again.
But again, I said
Okay.
those are jokes, but that's neither here nor
Okay.
there. But the thing is this: he was talking about those cops specifically. Now, if
You gotta
they
be
if they
serious.
are if they are non-FBA, shouldn't we point that out?
By just
Because
looking
I
at them,
actually,
by their hairline,
because I actually
by looking at them.
Forget about the hairline. If those cops are non-FBA, shouldn't we distinguish that? Shouldn't we point that out? Because I
If
asked you earlier, if I went to one of these other countries and I committed some type of heinous crime, wouldn't they point out that I'm a Black American? Wouldn't they make it clear that I'm not one
so
of them?
every time a Black American does something, should it be pointed out too? Like the stuff that's going on in
It
Chicago,
is.
that should be pointed out
It,
too. You know what I mean?
it already
So what's
is.
the like that pointing out everything? How is that productive? I don't see the point in that. Besides, that just leads.
That's because
See what you're doing when you say shouldn't it be pointed out? You're feeding the people that you say you don't agree with within your own group. You're feeding those people
what do you mean?
by doing
What
that.
do you mean?
But when you say,
What do you
oh,
mean?
when you try to say and distinguish, like you say, okay, every time, let's say, a crime is committed, and you find out that the person is from Africa or Caribbean, you'd be like, oh, you're feeding the prejudice mind of the group, because I don't see the purpose of pointing that out. Wicked is wicked, bad is bad. Why? What? You know? Well, I don't see. You know, that's like saying every time. You know, it doesn't make sense to me. Logically, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Okay.
If something happened bad, it happened bad.
Okay.
Listen, if a person is a pedo, a child molester, whether they FBA, Africa, you a child, you filthy. You're a child molester. Why distinguish? Because when you distinguish what you're doing, you're feeding people who have prejudices against those people. You understand? So I don't see the logic. Go ahead, my brother. Go ahead.
Can I answer your question? Because your
Yes,
question
go
is
ahead.
your question is what's the point of distinguishing that, right? You know why they have crime statistics based on race? They create crime statistics based on race so that they can justify targeting a certain group, right? So they'll make the numbers look a certain way so that they can say, look, there's a lot of crime going on in the Black community, so we need to increase the police presence. We need to do stop and frisk. We need to do all of this other stuff, right? And so when people from other cultures are doing these crimes and it just gets painted as being Black, we have to bear the consequences of it. So maybe all of this Black crime that's being talked about, maybe it's not all us. So if it is us, then if it is us, then it's us. Nothing makes it right or wrong based on who it is. But we don't want to be targeted based on someone else's behavior. Because what happens is, hold on, I'm still talking. Because what happens is, because nobody complains when a person who's from the Caribbean or Africa, they create some great invention, or they get a PhD, or they're getting married, they're having some luxurious wedding or whatever the case may be. And then people point out the fact that this is a Nigerian who invented this. This is a Haitian who has this PhD. This is a such and such who made this accomplishment. They get to wave their flag and take that accomplishment with them. That's fine. We don't have a problem with that. But when one of your people do something foul, you need to wave that flag also. Because what you're doing, when you take your accomplishment, you're separating yourselves from us. You're saying
That's true.
This accomplishment doesn't go. The accomplishment doesn't go to those Akatas. It doesn't go to the Yankees. This goes to our people because we're the model minorities and we're not lazy. We work hard. They push that bullshit. You know what I'm saying? But when they do something foul, then all of a sudden, oh, why you pointing out he's Jamaican? He's just black. Why he can't just be black? No, he can't just be black because all of that negativity gets associated with us, and we don't want to bear everyone else's garbage. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying, but it's all about perception, right? So, for example, I'm not Haitian, right? I'm not Haitian, but I love the history of the Haitian Revolution. And even though I'm not Haitian, I take that on as my history. I'm not Haitian, but I love that history. So when they do that, I'm like, okay, it's still a win. That's how I look at it. So it's all about perception.
Example.
It's all about, you asking me a question, so I'm answering you. Going with your same example, when it says a Nigerian committed this, or they this invention or this, I'm like, oh, it's a win for all black people. Look, just like the pyramids. The pyramids ain't FBA. The things that happen in Kush and FBA just started in 2015. How the pyramids FBA? What are you talking about? The pyramids started. FBA started 2015. But this is the point I'm trying. But listen, follow my. Okay, all right. So just for the sake of my argument, follow what I'm saying. Right? The pyramids are thousands of years ago. Right? Okay. Let me rephrase the question. Let me rephrase it. Right? The pyramids are thousands of years ago, but it is history. Whether you Jamaican, Black American, Haitian, African, is history that we all could be proud of as black people. Would you agree with that?
I do agree with that.
That's the point I'm trying to say. So when a Black American does this, it's a win for all of us. It's a win for all. When Bob Marley is a win for all of us. You know what I mean? When Idi Amin, Idi Amin is a win for all of us.
Hold on, slow down.
What do you mean?
Hold on, slow down. Well, just slow down with what you're saying. Because reggae music, who gets credit for reggae music? You mention Bob Marley. Who gets credit for reggae music?
Jamaicans. Jamaicans get credit for reggae music.
That's their thing. There's nothing wrong with that. It's okay. We can all be proud of it, but that's their thing. Right?
Right.
We're not trying to take it away from them. We're not trying to. Right. But
there's no
when it
argument
comes to
with
hip hop, right, I got you. But when it comes to hip hop, if I say foundational Black Americans created hip hop, then you're gonna say no, all black people created hip hop. It's not just y'all niggas. Well, that's all of our culture.
Well, let me go. Well, like I said, I'm going on perception. To me, it's a win for all of us, right? It's black culture's a win for all of us. Now, you want to go into that? Let's go into that. Because I'm from the Bronx, born and raised. Tariq ain't from the Bronx. I've lived it, and whether you want to admit it or not, right? Puerto Ricans had a hand in it. Jamaicans had a hand in it. Kool Herc, who before FBA was even thought about, from the 80s and the 90s, people been bigging up Kool Herc as the godfather of hip hop. He's Jamaican. You got you people like Big. Exactly. So to say that it's FBA alone is not true, because in the Bronx at that time, it's not true. In the Bronx at that time, you had Puerto Ricans, you had Dominicans, you had Jamaicans, you had all kind of Caribbean people, you had Black Americans. And this is the thing where people are being disingenuous, because hip hop was created, first of all, is revolutionary music, right? In its inception. And it was created to stop the gang warfare that was going on in the Bronx at that time. And if you look at like the Savage Nomads, you know, they had mixed race gangs where it was Puerto Ricans and blacks. Of course, you had all black gangs like the Black Spades, and you had all Puerto Rican gangs, but you also had mixed race gangs. This is the time when the Bronx looked bombed out, right? If you look at that movie, I don't know if you saw the documentary, 80 Block from Tiffany's, right? That's a hip hop movie. It shows you who was living during that time in the inception of hip hop. Puerto Ricans, blacks, side by side. As a matter of fact, I think the Bronx has the most mixed race of Jamaican, Puerto Rican, FBA, Puerto Rican, FBA, Dominican mix, because we all in here, right? So in the exception of hip hop, to say that they didn't have a hand in it is just false. You could go to 80 blocks from Tiffany's. You could go to what's the movie, Star Wars? I'm probably saying it wrong. Where they was talking about getting up with the graffiti and all that. You know, you had all these groups, because remember, hip hop is a gumbo of different elements put together, right? Rapping, breaking, graffiti, DJing, right? And then even to a certain extent, I'll even say like fashion and all that, right? So during that time in the Bronx, you can't exclude the hand that Puerto Ricans had in it, or the hands that Caribbean blacks had in it. And that goes back, my brother, to what I was saying. A lot of those Caribbean blacks, you didn't know, if they didn't tell you, oh, my mother's from Barbados or my mother's from Trinidad, you would never know that they was Caribbean, because at that time, whether you was Puerto Rican, Dominican, FBA, Jamaican, we all had one culture, which was the urban culture in the Bronx called hip hop. You understand?
Yeah, that's not true. But
that is true. That is true. That's the falsehood
a lot, bro.
that I can't rock with the FBA.
You said a lot, brother. You're doing a filibuster now.
I said a lot because I'm okay.
You're doing a filibuster.
You call it a filibuster, but I'm speaking the truth.
I'm allowing you to speak, but you're not giving me a chance to respond to anything.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Response. I'm done. Go ahead. Response, my brother.
I'll touch on the hip hop thing.
Could you respond to the things I said? Could you respond to the things I said?
I'll respond to the hip hop thing, but even before you went on that long-winded filibuster, there was something else that I was trying to respond to, and so I'm gonna go back to that first. We were talking about. I told you that you know, the people that I rock with in FBA, they don't say all Africans, all Jamaicans, or anything like that are tetherers, right? And you said that's not true. Tariq Nasheed, that's his whole thing, right? And so I just wanted to show you something to disprove that before we get into the hip hop thing. So hold on one second. Let me unplug this. Okay, this is Tariq speaking. This is like 2 days ago. Oh no, this is last week sometime when he did this live. I'm gonna play you his own words. And he said this many times, but I just knew that he said it the other day, so it was quick for me to pull this up. So let me just share this. Hold on.
They're representing our culture while simultaneously disrespecting the culture. You got a lot of these folks who hop on TikTok and all of these other programs disrespecting the culture, and a lot of people are starting to check them out. Now there's this thing where FBAs are expecting some of the disrespectful public. It's become normal that we just don't allow any more disrespect. This is one sister, shout out to her, I don't know this is, but they were doing some interviews on the college campus, and the sister did a reaction video to this Ethiopian woman talking about how they got culture and what they got over us. They're just mentioning foundational Black Americans. Just out of blue, and the sister kind of checked this video and check this out. Oh, 1 second. Now listen to this. We just be rent-free for no reason. Hold on.
One thing that I do have is not a American story. Spend the year where you come from.
Okay.
One thing that I do have is not a American story. Spend the year where you come from.
Okay. In that narrative, this we don't know where we come from. We've been here for half a damn millennia, guys, and sometimes longer than that. We know it.
And so let me just say something about that real quick, because
brother, paraphrase what he
we've
said,
been here for like at least 500. Oh, you couldn't understand it?
Yeah, it was kind of muffled on my answer.
Okay.
Could you just paraphrase what he was saying?
Yeah. So he didn't get to his point yet, but he played a clip of some Caribbean girl who was saying the difference between her and foundational Black Americans is that she has a sense of where she comes from and we don't. We don't know where we come from. And so he was going to go on to say that, listen, we've been in this country for at least 500 years. So where's this thing coming from about we don't know where we coming from? Most people are not made to go back 500 to 1,000 years to describe where they come from. If a person tells you that they're Jamaican, they've been in Jamaica the same amount of time that we've been in America, right? So you're Jamaican. That's where you come from. We're American. This is where we come from. This is our land. We've been here for 500 years. We can go back before that if we want to. And then, you know, we're going to come from the same place as everybody else. But we've been here long enough to say that this is, we know where we come from. We know our history. You know what I'm saying? But also, he goes on to say, listen, we have African ancestry, and that's fine. We can acknowledge our African ancestry. He says that right here in this video, right? And he also says, this chick doesn't represent all Caribbeans. All Caribbeans don't have this mindset.
That's interesting. Yes. That's interesting.
He said,
seems like he's trying to clean up his act
that
now.
a lot.
Nah, he don't.
Says that a lot. He's been saying that for quite some time. Because otherwise,
I disagree with that.
Because if not, I would be in disagreement with Tariq Nasheed. I rock with Tariq Nasheed because he's saying the same things that I've been saying to you this entire life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? There are other people out there who twist up what he says and make it to be this straw man argument that they want it to be. But he's been very consistent about pointing out that that's the reason why he came up with the term tether, to distinguish the tethers from the riders. That's the reason why he came up with the term, because it doesn't represent all Caribbeans. It doesn't represent all Africans. It's a certain aspect of their culture. It's a certain, branch of people that come from these places that have this mentality. And so he gave it a title. It was based on the movie Us from Jordan Peele. Jordan Peele made the movie Us. The people that were living under the ground, that were mimicking the people that was upstairs in the house, the people under the ground were called tethers because they were mimicking the people in the house. That's where the term comes from, right? But it was made to describe a certain sector of people that come from these places. It doesn't describe the entire group. That's always been clear from the beginning. So the thing that you have a problem with is really a straw man argument. You don't really have a problem with the things that we actually stand for. You have a problem with the false narrative. You have a problem with the false narrative that's been put out there about what FBA is supposed to represent, and we simply don't represent those things. We don't agree with any of those things that you said tonight that you told me you have a problem with. None of us that I fuck with, we don't agree with any of those things. We agree with you. That shit ain't true. It's not all Africans. It's not all Caribbeans. You know, you said, so when we go to the reparations conversation, shouldn't we be distinguishing so it's clear who's supposed to get that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. There's no argument with that.
That's all we're doing. Nothing more, nothing less.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. You know, no one has an argument. I don't argue that, you know. That's like if England decides to pay, but that's them.
Right.
Like I said, we cannot make the exception the rule. If England decides to give Jamaicans reparations, you're not gonna get that. I'm not gonna get that. You know what I mean? So I don't have a problem with that. The problem is too many, and if we're being honest, right? There's too many people who claim FBA who have hate rhetoric on YouTube. You could go into the comments, you could go to Twitter, you could see the things that people are saying on what's this new shit that what's the guy, Whack 100? It's this app that he be promoting with it, where you call in and all that. But anyways, these social media things, too many people who are pushing FBA are coming with this hate rhetoric, and not enough people like yourself who's balancing out. If more people spoke like you, it would be no static. It would be no problem, because no one is against that. Look, let me make this final point. In Africa, there's many different cultures. There's many different cultures. You know, and they are very what's the word? They're very yes. Even in Ghana, I was speaking to this brother from Ghana, and he said even though he don't like colonialism, he said speaking English was a good thing. And I said, why? He said, because in Ghana alone, there's over 10 languages. And he said, some of those dialects in Ghana, we can't understand each other. So he said, now English is there, we could understand each other. I said, oh, okay. So he was letting me know how he's from Ghana, and this is what he said. He's saying that is a good idea for all of them to communicate. Absolutely. Yeah.
No, not just for them to communicate, but that English is that you be grateful for the English. Do you agree with
The
that?
way the way he said it, right? The way he said it. Listen to what I'm saying. He's saying it that it bridged the gap in Ghana between the different tribes in Ghana, because he said the different tribes. He told me there's like not. This is what he told me, that there's 9 or more different languages, and he says some of the dialect is totally different. Like they can't even understand each other what they're saying. He said so now when the colonial came in and they taught English, he said now they all could speak together. It's something similar to like how some Africans saying they want to have African language so that they could all talk. That's his point. So on that,
Yeah. Right. Trying to see if he get his service back. He froze. He froze up. Trying to see if he get his service back. Damn. I want to end this off. I want to end it, but I want him to get his service back so we could bring it to a close. He froze all the way up. I think he lost his service. Service dropped out or whatever. But let me just say this, and I want to be very, very clear. And me, I'm the type of person who makes this distinction, right? Many people do not make a distinction. When people talk like him, many people will not make a distinction. They will automatically classify him with the tether class. He said his family, part of his family comes from, I think he said the Virgin Islands. So he has an FBA dad, and I think his mom's family comes from the Virgin Islands. Many people will automatically call him an anchor baby and classify him with the tether class. I'm one of the few people who actually makes a certain distinction. That brother is just confused and misinformed. He's not a coon or a tether. He's really not. He has an empowerment mindset, but he's confused because he's misinformed about the FBA movement. And there are many people out there like that. And so everybody doesn't have the patience. Everybody doesn't see it as their mission to try to bring clarity and make those type of distinctions. But for me, I think it would be beneficial to do so. You know what I'm saying? So a person like him, I don't mind having these type of conversations with to bring some clarity. That's why I let the brother speak. You don't see me trying to cut him off and not let him make his point and blah, blah, blah. I'll let the brother speak and expound on what he's trying to say. Only thing I ask is that you allow me to do the same thing in response, because my goal is to bring clarity. You know what I'm saying? There are people out there who's listening who are just as confused as he is. They have those same misconceptions. They have been listening to some of these plebiscite babbling people on YouTube and whatnot, and they have been indoctrinated with this false narrative about what the FBA movement is and what it represents. And so it's okay for some of us to bring clarity. And it's also okay for those of us who choose not to bring the clarity, who just bring the hammer. Many people are just bringing the hammer, and you say anything like what he said, they just coming for your head, period. They ain't here trying to educate you. They ain't trying to bring no clarity. They're going to start clowning you. They're going to call you a tether, and they're going to take your head off. And that's okay for them to do that. But for me, I think it would be beneficial to bring clarity so that more people out there can get an understanding of what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? And so I respect that brother, respect to him. You know what I'm saying? I feel like more conversations like this, because as you've seen throughout this conversation, there were plenty of points where he said, oh shit, I never looked at it like that. I see where you're coming from. Yo, you make sense. I never heard nobody talk like you before. He said that plenty of times. A lot of these FBAs, they don't sound like you, brother. And the reason why he's saying that is because a lot of the conversations devolve into bickering and just trolling. You know what I'm saying? But if you're going to have a real conversation and you are able to get the ear of somebody who's really willing to listen, and they're not just trolling, because you can't do what I just did with a troll. You know, this is the why me and Taharka Bey couldn't have a progressive conversation. This is the reason why me and Omawale couldn't have a progressive conversation, because he's not interested in really getting an understanding. He's not interested in really bringing clarity. He's only interested in forwarding his narrative, which he knows is a false narrative. Same thing with Taharka Bey. They know that they're lying. They know that they're pushing a false narrative. This brother is just confused and misinformed. That's the reason why he's willing to listen. Like, he's like, damn, I don't get it. I'm confused. Where you coming from with this? And then when I explain it, he goes, okay, yeah, I concede that. That makes sense. I can understand that part right there. Damn, I never heard none of the FBAs talk like you. But anybody, most of the people, especially the people that most of these guys have a problem with, which is Tariq Nasheed, Professor Black Truth, Jason Black, Vicky Dillard, those people are saying the same things that I've been saying here on this live during this conversation with the brother. Everything that I'm saying is the same thing that they are pushing. That's the narrative. I'm 100% on code with the voices of the new black media. Everything that I'm saying, I'm signal boosting their message. Right? And so he doesn't have a problem with the actual message. He has a problem with the lies that have been told about the message and the false narratives that have been associated with our movement and with our message. And so for people like him, I can have a productive conversation and we can get clear. You know what I'm saying? But people who just want to troll, you're never going to get clarity. And sometimes I might still engage them because, like I said, there are people who are listening in the audience who need that clarity. And that's my goal. That's my goal, is to bring the clarity to the table. You know what I'm saying? So that was a good conversation. I ain't mad at the brother at all. Much respect to you, brother. I forgot your name. Damn. I forgot his name. I forgot his name. But shout out to him. That was a cool conversation. I wouldn't mind you know, having another conversation with him on the same topic so we can continue to get clarity. That was a good, productive conversation right there. Keep teaching and bringing clarity. Shout out to Mama Love. Yes, indeed. Lead. He's a lead. Okay, that's you right there. Lead. Shout out to you, brother. You know, no disrespect to you at all, man. You know what I'm saying? Let's try this again when you're not at work and when you got some good service. You know what I'm saying? Your service was a little janky, so we wasn't able to finish the conversation, but we could do this again. Just stay tapped in and make sure you listen to the full album. I know you said you heard a couple joints off the Master's Table, but check out the full album, man. It's some good food for thought right there. And like I said, we could do this again sometime. But with that being said, family, I'm out of here. Appreciate everybody who tapped in. Peace.